Good day, my fellow nerds. We're back with the Corner of Remnant. I'm your host, Larissa, and joined by co-host Emperial Dawn.
Hello again.
And today we're discussing episode 6 of RWBY Volume 9, which is extra exciting.
Yes.
We also have our sort of like starring guest, visiting guest. What's the word here too? That's Ellie.
Yes, along with the dog guest, we also have Guest of the Rain on my end, so might be a bit extra noise and stuff this episode,
it's
so we
bucketing down where Dawn is. There's a spider just descending itself onto my keyboard. This is a great start to stream.
Great start. I'd also like to mention that neither of us will be attempting to pronounce the title of this episode.
Oh,
so
God.
Don't
when you watch my reaction, it's hilarious.
I used to be able to say it. I used to be able to say the cloud word very well.
I looked at... I first messaged Caden, Queenoob, and I was like, how do I pronounce it? So they sent me a YouTube video that of pronouncing it, and I sort of got it right at the start, but when partway through the episode, I'm like, oh, there's the Kuba cloud things. Good Lord.
Yeah. But I do like how all that kind of encompasses this whole idea, like what we've wanted from the Ever After was this world that kind of formed itself around how characters are feeling, and now we finally get that within this Punderstorm situation. So I'm glad that we finally got the environment in which I think a lot of us thought the whole Ever After was going to be.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we at least got this sections weather pattern that actually kind of creates this world in which I think is what a lot of us were looking for when we first heard of the Ever After.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's cool to finally experience that this episode.
What are you doing? Sorry. you were lying down a moment ago. It's just like, nah. And no sleep. Okay. So I was thinking before, normally we will go through the episode start to finish, but I thought maybe we want to talk about the particular moment in the middle first, because I know people who probably want to watch this on YouTube especially probably want to know our feelings and thoughts about that. So I thought we might start about that, and then we'll go from start to finish, because the other stuff's kind of like separate, kind of, to what that was going on.
I suppose so. I think everything else, I think everything else was much subtler in its significance and importance, but I think there's definitely something that is center stage this episode for sure. So, in case for whatever reason you haven't watched the episode and somehow have stayed away from RWBY social media or anything like that, I guess spoiler warning.
Spoilers.
But,
so why are you here? If you haven't seen the episode.
And something that has been worked upon and built upon, I would argue, since Volume 4. Some people say earlier. I would say Volume 4 is a fairer start point.
There was a few hints and things, but it was really Volume 4 and Volume 6 where it still really started to,
It started to establish itself, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there were other things in the way in the earlier volumes and stuff, but definitely by Volume 6, for sure. That's a definite no more distractions. We're building towards,
and of course,
what we would accumulate here with
the cumulus clouds.
It accumulates within this clouds, yes.
So of course we're talking about Bumblebee.
Yes.
So I thought for such a moment, which is definitely sort of like something the fan has wanted for so long, but also it's so special to a lot of people as well. I know a lot of people really love Blake and Yang's relationship, and and it means a lot to them. And of course, the people who've been shipping since like Volume 1 as well, like we're finally here, 9 volumes later.
And that's the thing too. Like, I want to preface this before we go into further. Like, obviously, the relationship doesn't mean as much to me in my position, like my experience, how I identify myself. It doesn't mean as much to me, but I understand how much it means to a lot of people. I just want to establish that here and now. So because I have my feelings on it, all of which are positive, but probably not as positive as other people who are losing their minds over this, which I'm more happy for. And actually, I wanted to address that first, actually, if you don't mind.
I'm also just moving you slightly across because you're disappearing.
Oh, thank you very much. I was wondering why mine, like, everything started to pause for a second, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I saw a tweet earlier this week. This is more in reference to White Knight, which was the ship of Jean and Weiss.
John and Weiss,
which I do hope we get a little more sprinkling of that through the rest of the season.
We had a little hint there at the start of the episode.
We did have a little bit. And they're what they said about White Knight is that it is something that they enjoy in the show, but it's not something they enjoy within the community. It's almost like they enjoy seeing it on screen, and that's enough for them. And I think this episode really, really solidified that as far as Bumblebee is for me.
Yeah.
I don't like... I don't know why this is particularly, especially when I watch the episode, I immediately thought, once it started, Jean saying, "Oh, there's something bigger to deal with." We go to this other scene, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is." Personally, I thought this is corny as hell.
It was very corny.
Oh my god, here's where we're going. Oh, here we go. This will be 5 minutes of this. In the end, goosebumps, thrills, absolutely loved it. My heart was so happy, genuinely, which means a lot to me, considering it's not a ship I particularly like. But they did it so well that I really felt it, and I really did. And that's the thing too. Yeah. In the moment, in the show, in the canon, I love it. Yeah. Community, fandom, I don't care. Yeah. I don't know why that is. Yeah. It's something that I enjoy personally with me. It's not a love and a ship that I need to share and experience with everyone else. It's an experience for me alone. Yeah. Not share everyone else. Whereas a lot of it
different, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how I feel.
I just killed one. Oh my god. They're tiny little spiders. Welcome to Australia. I just loved, because, starting again, I didn't think it would happen this episode. Hey, Nightwalker.
No. I mean, we discussed that last week, that, the community and fandom were blowing up. We're like, what preface does that have? And again, they did it really well. Despite everything we said last week, I'm happy it happened. I thought they did it really well. As corny as started, by the end of it, it was really, really satisfying and worked incredibly well.
Yeah, just how it was just so beautiful. Like, it started off with them sort of saying what they thought of each other, and to finally getting them to say to each other what they've been wanting to say for so long, but haven't been had the confidence, or just with everything else happening around them, haven't had a chance to properly confess to each other their love for each other.
Because the world has been at stake.
There's so much
their
else
feelings
going on.
towards each other haven't been the priority. I do like that there was a bit of reference here back to Volume 2 in terms of, like, Yang talking about, like, Blake back now from a challenge and stuff, and like there was like mirror between those two scenes. Yes. Back in Mountain Glen to this as well, and a lot of other mirrors and like parallels to previous Bumblebee stuff. But that was a particular one that I always really liked. For sure.
And it was just so beautiful, and for a moment that means so much to so many, rather than just kissing randomly somewhere in the ever after. For it to be happen as it did with the flowers and the lighting, the music, it was just beautiful. Yeah.
Which is what I mean. It's also real and not real. Like, the world just like it's one of those things. Yeah. It's one of those things where I get it's really corny.
It's
that
so
they were
pretty.
put into this place that was literally like, you will not escape this until you confess your love for each other.
And that was the thing with the Punderstorm. It was
yes,
yeah,
and we had the exact same thing on the other side with Weiss, Ruby, and John, and we'll get to that stuff.
I
will say it's not the dumbest or corniest thing in the episode. That was the first thing that happened in the episode, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
God, that was so stupid, but it's fine. But it's so stupid.
I'm just so happy that it not only did it finally happen and be canon, but just how it was done. The voice acting as well, of course. Aaron and Barbara, just really spot on, just amazing. Yeah. The animation, the facial expressions, the environment. I love the swinging breeches and the little planks appearing every time, like they're actually talking about their feelings for each other and bringing it all together at the end. It was just
and how like it retreats beautiful. When Yang doesn't really bring the feelings forward.
Well, yeah, he's like, it can't be about that. I'm like, yep, it is.
Which really speaks to her character in terms of like, she has this confidence, she has this bravado.
Yes.
But it's all in jest with her.
Yeah.
And the second it's serious, the second something really means something to her, she, again, she's almost inexperienced. Like, you can tell, like Blake's, everyone has mooned over Blake throughout the entire show, whether it's Sun, Adam, Ilya. Like, she's always been this thing of love.
Yeah.
This, like, fountain, this well of love, you know, despite her moody and gothy appearance, which, considering the day and age, makes a lot of sense. But back when it started, 2013, I don't know if the goths were in. They are now. But, yeah, so, it's, yeah. But then you have Yang, who's this, you would think, you know, we've always assumed that Yang was this, you know, lady killer, this, you know, this, this, like, again, like, you go back to the, I remember me and, Kaido Dan talked about it a little bit on Twitter this week, how, like, you know, the very first scene we see her in, she goes for a kiss with Junior and punches him instead. And then you have this scene here where it's almost like a first kiss for Yang. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but, you know, she's very shy about it. And that's just because that's how much Blake means to her compared to everyone else.
Blake,
this also ties in this also ties in as well to the episode 2 about the whole feeling loved and stuff as well. There's also, so that was also kind of a setting seed for here, why she was so shy and uncomfortable about it.
I think too, with the personalities, Blake's very much a romantic and talks from the heart a lot. In a lot of things that she's done, she's always speaking from the heart. Whereas with Yang is
I agree.
Not really so much of a romantic. She's very much of someone who, you know, has a laugh and a joke and doesn't really talk from the heart that much. Like she said, Blake had a good brain and that she liked her caddies. Like
it's all in jest to her. You know, she's sexy and romantic in a comedic way.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Whereas Blake is much more, I wouldn't say serious or childlike, but something in the, like, she has this, like you said, romanticized view of things, despite all she's been through.
Yeah.
Which is a credit to her. This is something that I'm actually asking you because I'm not that familiar with the community and the terms and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just looking for an education myself here. I believe the correct term is sapphic. Is that correct? That's a woman and woman relationship, regardless of their genders. It's as long as it's a woman and a woman, it's a sapphic.
Yes.
Because I know some people refer to like a lesbian relationship, but it's not quite the case because as far as we know, Blake is bisexual, so it's not a lesbian kiss ship, it's a sapphic one until we get more confirmation on what Yang's sexuality actually is. Correct?
But we sort of got the thing, I think, Yang leaning towards lesbian, whereas like bisexual, but like we haven't had anything like really grounding. But Remnant also, I feel, works very differently in that. Really in Remnant, it's okay to love who you want to love, whether it's someone the same gender or not.
I think it's safe to assume bisexual is just the standard in Remnant rather than one or the other.
Yeah.
At least we've had no reason to assume otherwise.
Yeah. I quickly looked it up and see it well. So sapphic, relating to sexual attraction or activity between two women. The two women share a sapphic kiss. Yeah.
Yes, because I've seen some people throw the word lesbian around, and I know that I don't think that's correctly the right term to throw around.
The other term is WLW, which is women loving women. And that refers to women who are attracted to women, whether or not they're attracted exclusively to other women. Yeah, so...
Yeah, and that's the thing about Walker. And there was no like reaction when we first got introduced to Saffron and Terror, which is I think from that episode why we kind of assumed that, at least I know me and Larissa do that, most of the it's bisexual is the standard. Yeah, I think in this world.
Pansexual as well. If you want to get
I guess what I just meant. Sorry, you're right. No, I guess what I meant is just that straight is not necessarily the defined standard as it typically is in our world at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree too. Yeah, that it was. It felt very genuine, not heat in the moment. Yes, it did.
Yeah, that's very good too. I'm very curious to see where this goes forward. I hope it kind of, and I think this will make sense. It's just their relationship is kind of more of the same going forward because I feel like these two have cared about each other this way since Volume 6. It's just they hadn't expressed it yet. So this is just the moment of expression.
Yes.
So I'm just hoping, selfishly, that the rest of the series isn't going to be them lovey-dovey from now on. I hope it's just their relationship's going to be more of the same, just more open and honest to each other about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't want them to be lovey-dovey, kissing, hugging, touching hands every single episode from now on. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
You know.
I think we're going to see a lot of the touchy hands, absolutely. But
Sure, no, that's fine. Yeah, no, again, like, I'm just saying I don't want that to be, I don't want that to consume I don't want their relationship to consume their characters.
No, I don't
still
think.
want them
I
to
think
still
they'll
be their own
handle.
characters and stuff.
RWBY will handle it really well because they know how special it is to a lot of people, and there's just how they did the whole
it's-
thing
yeah.
as well. This is, this is
Yeah,
a
it's kind of
special
like
moment.
it's the opposite to Ren and Nora, because Ren and Nora's characters have always been their relationship. That's always been their thing. And we've had the refreshing change from Volume 8 where they kind of had to be separated and they kind of had to go forward with their own personalities, and that was a big thing for Nora as well.
Yeah.
Which actually is kind of like what Nora went through in Volume 8 is, to a lesser degree, kind of what RWBY's going through now. That kind of sense of identity.
Yes.
And having to escape what you are known for, again, being Summer, and kind of having to say, who am I without this attachment, this extra thing latched onto me.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a second once we finish with all of the Bumblebee talk, because I'm sure there's still a little more we could go into.
Yes,
but
how we'll have a relationship going forward, not just at the end of the show. Absolutely. Instead of it being like an end of the show thing, we're going to have this relationship going now with through the story, which is really nice. So, yes. I'm excited. Really looking forward to how it goes, especially with what's happening and how they're going to probably get back to Remnant. It's going to be really interesting. And, I'm looking forward to seeing
it's funny.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, we've got, like, Weiss mentioning it earlier, about time. They've got John referencing it again here. And I assume Nora will have some smart-ass comment when we get back to Remnant about it as well. I guarantee you Nora will have some smart-ass comment when hopefully we get back.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see that. So, overall, Bumblebee, in the moment, when I watched it, I had far more reaction than I thought I would, and I'm so happy that it got me as strongly as it did.
Yeah. It was just so beautiful.
But you still might not see me going Bumblebee crazy like everyone else.
Everyone else is going crazy.
It was a beautiful moment. I'm just like, okay, glad you're enjoying yourselves. I'm good. I saw what I wanted to see. I'm good.
It was funny because Kate and Queen was like, I don't think that's going to happen this episode. Same as me.
No, I didn't either.
It's going to happen. And then I got a message at 3 a.m. saying, stay off social media and watch the episode as soon as you can. Because Twitter had exploded with Bumblebee.
Which, to be fair, is also, Barbara and Aaron and all that cast, they weren't exactly keeping it to themselves.
No.
And which, by the way, I also recommend you watch the latest episode of Always Open. On the All Good No Worries YouTube channel, which is a Rooster Teeth affiliate channel. It's an all-women Rooster Teeth channel, in which Barbara and Aaron basically spend 40 minutes talking about themselves, but also a fair amount of Bumblebee as well. So
I watched a little 2-minute clip on Twitter about it. Actually, I need to go watch the whole thing.
Yeah, it was a good good listen.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yes. So I think we got Bumblebee out.
We'll never get Bumblebee out. This community will never let Bumblebee get out.
No, the community's not.
But I did actually, before we go, chronologically, just before I forget.
Yes.
Because something that I've found really interesting, obviously with the whole Punderstorm concept, which again is kind of what we wanted all of the Ever After to be.
Yes.
I feel like going into it, I'm glad we've gotten. Don't get me wrong. But obviously there are a lot of theories going into this volume of like, will we get Pyrrha stuff? Will we get Roman stuff? Will we get Adam stuff? Will we get Jacques stuff? Will we get all these kind of characters from the background kind of coming up and dealing with these things? We got a lot of Jean kind of dealing with his things in the background. And again, the whole Jean, RWBY, Weiss, they let the Punderstorm pass.
Yeah.
They didn't deal with the problems, the crossroads, whereas Bumblebee dealt with their things, and that's how they got out. Yeah. I find it interesting that that if we were going to get, I know Miles, Jean's voice actor, has teased stuff for episode 7, and RWBY in general have teased episode 7 as a big one for weeks now. So I assume there'll be some Jean significance next episode, along with other stuff as well.
Yeah.
But the fact that we didn't get any, and again, we could get Pyrrha stuff tomorrow. I 100% think that could be a possibility. But we didn't get it here, even though we got flashes of old John, we got flashes of Penny. We didn't get flashes of Pyrrha, and that made me remember, or kind of just really think about it, that between Volume 5 and the whole Cinder thing, and the Volume 6 statue, I think it's probably, especially since we didn't see it, it's probably safe to assume that Jean has dealt with Pyrrha, and we probably won't get any issue. We won't get any Pyrrha stuff this volume.
I don't think we
just
will.
because I feel like I feel like if you're going to do it, you would have teased it there in episode 6.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. Again, we're wrong about Bumblebee this week, so 100% could be wrong. But just the idea that if there was going to tease it, I feel like that was going to be the moment. And when you think back, I think he has dealt with Pyrrha to the point where he doesn't need to confront it like Bumblebee needed to confront themselves, or RWBY needed to confront Summer, or Weiss needs to come to terms with Atlas. So, yeah, I don't think we'll get Pyrrha, and that was going to tie into something, which also means too. I mean, at this point, it'd be weird to do it now.
Yeah.
But I also don't think we can get any sort of Adam reference. I think that's really dead and gone.
I think
at this
we've
point.
moved on for those issues.
Yeah, that's just what I'm saying. I feel like if we were going to get any of that kind of stuff, we probably would have gotten that already.
Yeah.
I still think we could get Roman stuff. I still think we could get Summer. Obviously, we're getting Summer stuff.
Yes.
But we're not. So we still could get Roman stuff. And
maybe.
I don't know if we can get anything more from Weiss other than Atlas. Like, it seems to her, it's just to Weiss. It's just the city. It's the kingdom. It's a home. That's bothering her.
I think that.
I mean, she also doesn't know her dad's dead. Obviously.
No.
Either. So, yeah, I think for now it's just Atlas as a whole. Which I think works in an ironic sense, since we didn't get a lot of Weiss and Atlas really in volume 7 and 8. So I feel like it's almost a sense of. It's almost like a meta storytelling of the idea of. It's almost like Weiss regretting not having more of a role in volume 7 and 8 as well.
Yeah.
As well, at least to a tiny degree. But I definitely think obviously losing a home is a big deal for her.
I think like what we saw in the Thunderstorm there was John, of course, with Penny and his younger self. So he has a lot of sort of that.
Even after all the 20, 30 years he's been here, he still hasn't dealt with that. Yeah.
Yep, and then of course we saw Weiss with Atlas. So right now her sort of thing is she's lost her home, she's lost her.
Yeah, and hers is much more recent. There's a nice mix of like holding on to long regrets and pasts with like Penny and Jean's younger self.
Yep.
Ruby's, which is a bit more middling, like her lifetime, and then you had Weiss, which is much more recent. Yep. So I like that the three are all in different stages of grief in a sense.
Yes.
Jean is long past his but hasn't dealt it. RWBY has never confronted hers, and Weiss is front and center right now.
She's grieving the loss of a home. Yeah. Yes. So, jumping back right to the start of the episode, we found out how John got old.
Like, I get it. I get it's John. So it's gonna be something stupid.
It's John. Of course,
it's gonna be something dumb.
Yeah.
I really wish we had gotten a tease of the clock tree, at least even in the background of an earlier episode. I feel like just coming upon this here and now, like it would have been cool if just in a background shot you saw it, and it's like, oh, what's that? And then we get it here.
Will I signal now? Oh, good lord.
Look, it doesn't really bother me because at the end of the day, we're gonna get back to Remnant. And he's going to be back to normal, I assume.
Maybe.
So it doesn't really matter. And I remember Miles tweeted out something too, like to the effect of he sent out a text message he had with Yisa, I think. I could be wrong, so apologies. Talking about how he was like, oh my god, everyone thinks there's going to be a really significant reason why Jean is old. They're going to be so pissed when it was just picked up an orange.
Yeah.
I think they did it for the lols because it's Jean. Like, do we need to make this serious, or can we want John to be old, so let's just make him old for the fun of it because it's John? And I feel like with any other character that wouldn't work. I feel like with John it does.
Yeah, it does.
But it's still almost like, man, we really thought it was going to be something serious or significant, and it just wasn't.
I feel we're probably going to get more in the next episode, I say, where we have the discussion with John and what they're going to do now to get out of the ever after. I feel that this is very important to his character. Even if he does end up being young when he does return to Remnant with the whole witch in the wardrobe sort of thing, when they're back to how they were, he still lived.
Oh yeah, sorry, never mind. I was thinking bed knobs and broomsticks. I was like, you reckon the right thing? No, she reckons the right thing. My bad.
Yeah, he still spent decades in the ever after, having to deal, of course, with not only with what happened with Penny and the relics and Atlas, but also the fact that he may never see his friends again. And so, we really wanted to see his 20 years. Yeah, maybe we'll get more into this episode.
I mean, we did. I mean, we saw how he was with Alex, which which I find really interesting for a lot of reasons. Because one, I've seen some people. I don't know if we discussed this yesterday or not. If you hear scratching at the door, it's my cat. Let me know because I'll let him in if you can actually hear it. Because what was I thinking? Because this might be a reason as to why Ozpin lets Jean into the school.
Oh yes, yes.
Ozpin knows that Jean becomes the Rusted Knight. This might finally tie into the Tyrion reference we got in Volume 4.
Possibly.
Again, to some degree, not like in a again, making the things not as serious or significant as we thought they were, but still significant enough to where this might be an explanation for it. So yeah, I wonder if that's a thing. I also like. Well, yeah, that's
I've
also
seen
a
people
possibility
say
too.
about that.
I don't think so.
No.
Just because I personally like the idea that this is like the one fairy tale that Ozpin doesn't have a tie to, personally.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of Ozpin being, different races and you're giving him, different, I like seeing Ozpin as like different people throughout his lives and stuff. It just doesn't mess with the time, because how long ago was this really? And, because we know that his past life was the Ozpin, then it was the original headmaster, then it was the King of Vale, and then, could it be before that? That's a couple. That was like 100 years.
Yeah,
plus
we don't know how long
of those past lives.
Yeah, like in the ever after, it was decades, but in the real life, it could have been.
It would definitely
make
sense why Ozpin has a reference, like why Ozpin liked Jean and brought him into the school if he was Lewis and knew that. Yeah. But I don't think he needs to be Lewis for that to still make sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he can be familiar enough with the story in a way to where that would still make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
well, if Lewis went back in time, Alex went forward in time.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. I assume Lewis was consumed by the tree and is something in its world. Like, I thought maybe, two theories, obviously, one, he's might be the Jabberwocker, for whatever reason. Again, just assuming the tree can make him anything, for whatever reason.
Yeah, the only thing where he might not be the Jabberwocker, because I saw that as well, is that Alex mentions in a story about fighting the Jabberwocker. But then again, that may not be
But then again,
true.
Jean also wasn't the Rusted Knight until he got sent here and became the Rusted Knight. So there could be a paradox thing, for sure, going on.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I also thought, one idea I thought, and I don't remember the flashback super well, what if Jean doesn't find Juniper until after the events of Alex? And what if Juniper is Lewis? Sorry.
Oh,
is Lewis.
Yeah.
So that could be a possibility. Because again, I assume the tree would it's literally it just needs, in a sense, it just needs matter. It just needs something to create something else, even though it might have no connection to what it previously was.
Yes.
It is heartbreaking. Heartbreaking to me for Jean to find Alex and Lewis be familiar enough with the story enough to realize he's the Rusted Knight, which is goes opposite against what we were theorizing last week about Jean possibly not being familiar with the story. He is.
Yes.
And it's familiar enough for it to kind of click in his head. And again, I assume Jean eventually learned from someone, this like maybe the other mice, that this is the ever after, and he realizes where he is. So then when he comes across them, he realizes a person named Alex in this ever after, he realizes he's the Rusted Knight. So it's not that much of a stretch for him to kind of put that together.
Yeah.
But the fact that he feels, he is doing his best to guide Alex along this story that she's later going to tell. Oh, paradoxes.
Yep.
Trying to guide her through the story, and comes across the herbalists. Something changes. She learns something. She changes at that moment, or at least becomes worse.
She doesn't trust them after that moment. Yeah.
Again, I guess with the orange, it seems dumb that John gets poisoned, but I think just the way they described it made it sound like that was a part of the story. I don't think it was. I think John was just being fantastic in that, fantastical in that moment. He gets poisoned. Alex gets away. And then he blames himself for not doing the correct story, and blaming himself that even in a make-believe he can't be the real hero.
Yeah.
Which is just like, poor
Jean.
Oh, Jean. That's so sad. And the fact that both Jean and Pyrrha both in a sense, both ended up in their favorite fairy tales.
Yep.
Or I guess Pyrrha's mother's favorite fairy tale. But,
yes,
because John mentions it's not my favorite story anymore, and Pyrrha mentions that The Maidens was one of her mum's favorite stories, which I would incline is probably also one of her favorite stories.
Yes.
And they both actually become part of those fairy tales in a sense, in a certain point of views. And then they both kind of fail in that. I mean, I've seen a lot of people say that John won't make it out of the Ever After.
Yeah.
For sure, I've seen that a few times. And again, let's give this man his credit. He was here for that long, and he never tried to escape.
Well, maybe he did,
waited
but...
because... Well, no, but I like the idea of he knew that they would fall eventually.
Yes.
So it didn't matter to him. He never tried to escape. That wasn't his purpose. His point was just to wait here until his friend showed up because he knew they would.
Yeah. And just Alex and Lewis
I think that is a really a really admirable thing John did.
I want to say too, as well, I have a couple of things I want to mention before we get too far into it. I really did like seeing John's perspective, like we did with RWBY's at the start of the volume. We see John's perspective. Yeah, I really like that. Interesting with Crescent Rose, because I actually went back and tortured myself watching the last episode of Volume 8 because I just wanted to see how things, a bit more of the events and how they occurred. And Crescent Rose fell before RWBY did, which I couldn't remember if it did or didn't, but it did. So
no, the fact it doesn't match up.
John
well
saw it was really interesting, but it could be because in this in-betweeny sort of area with the little orbs and the descent into the Ever After, we don't know how that all works as such.
Yeah, it had time and speed
RWBY
and gravity, and it all works.
Fell together. Yeah. RWBY and Blake fell together, but RWBY ended up fighting with Neo on her descent down, which is really interesting how that all works.
And then also ended up alone. Neo ended up on the other side of the Ever After.
Yes.
Blake and Weiss ended up relatively close to each other despite falling at different times.
Yeah.
The only one that makes sense is Yang was there the longest. That was the only one. Well, technically, no. Jean was there the longest, actually.
Well, yeah. But... out of them, she fell first. But, and quite a fair bit before them, too. The other thing, too, with Alex and Lewis falling, so they're the two blue streaks we see. In the intro, we see two blue streaks as well.
Yes.
That's
very good point.
Alex and Lewis. And also the footsteps on the beach. We always seen a second set of footsteps on the beach, so that probably would have been Lewis's footsteps, perhaps, if he had gotten up first.
Yes, and I see the silhouette of Lewis in the intro, and a lot of people were always wondering what that was.
Yeah, you can see him in the reflection behind her, yeah.
I wanted to mention something else.
Time's always weird. Yeah, well, that's it. I think, and also like seeing John going back in time. Time is very important, I think, in the Ever After, and how it works is very warped. And it's going to be interesting when they eventually get back to Remnant, how much time's passed, because I'm thinking it's going to be very similar to Lion Witch and Wardrobe, where not much time has actually passed.
No, I don't think so. Which I'm glad, because I don't want to miss a bunch of Remnant. As much as I'm enjoying this, I don't want to come back to Remnant and all of a sudden it's months, years later.
It wouldn't make sense.
And stuff.
Yeah. Come back when time rebound. So if you watch it, watch that in the background. You can see the streaks going in reverse. Yeah. So you see Weiss, RWBY, Blake, and Yang's falls reversed. Yeah. When you go back in time.
Oh, that's cool. I actually didn't know. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, Nightwalker also mentioned earlier, that in the intro we do see RWBY, I think, it's like RWBY, Alex, Neo, or whatever, all in that same Punderstorm bridge.
Yes.
So it is likely that they'll get caught in another Punderstorm towards the end of this volume, hopefully, and have to deal with that. Have to deal with more of that. Which obviously, again, like if RWBY has to confront it, I feel like putting her back into a Punderstorm to finally confront this summer thing makes a lot of sense. Now that we've established that this Punderstorm thing is an idea.
Yeah. I only thought, though, it may not be a Punderstorm, might be something else. But also, feeling that we're going to see the armor again. And something very significant is going to happen with the armor.
Yeah. But again, you say that, and that's fair. But the carpenter, blacksmith, whatever, wasn't real either. At least as far as the rest of the market went. I think
it was real, but it's
but
Yeah.
like the whole scene faded away, and it was almost a different, not quite a different environment, but like
Yeah.
it was significant enough. I'm not saying that was a thunderstorm or anything like that, but it was definitely out of world experience almost. It was real,
Yeah,
but
it
it was
but
solely RWBY. Like you know, it was that was something different as well. Than just being in the ever after or a thunderstorm. I feel like that was something
sort of thing, but
similar, but I think it was again something different. It was just like I still think the world can manipulate itself around people and stuff and change things and stuff. And we did learn here, and I don't know why we didn't discuss this last week, because I kept discussing things about the island and the world and how it like wanted to consume things and kind of repurpose them. For some reason I never connected that to the tree. Maybe I just didn't say it, but like it's the tree. Like the cat mentions here that or John does. I apologize. That the cat's purpose is to lead things to the tree so the tree can consume them, and power itself, whatever, and then release them back into the world so the cycle constantly continues and stuff. So I'm curious then, because we know Alex. We still assume that Alex escaped and wrote her book. That might not necessarily be exactly, but we assume that's still what happened. Like, why is the tree the escape? And like how did Alex know that? Kind of thing. Or was that just John trying to lead her to the tree because he knew the story? So he led her to the tree. So but then Alex felt insecure and felt paranoid and clearly was a bit of a bitch. Screwed them all over. Went with Lewis to the tree, and then assumingly traded Lewis to the tree for her own freedom.
Yes. Yeah.
Assuming that's the assumption, I would think at the moment.
It could be. The only thing I find interesting though is when they first arrived on the island and they were trying to just walk towards the tree, it wouldn't let them. It's just interesting too. Yeah.
Which again is why I feel like there is this set, like this world is a story, it is a path in itself. You have to follow the right path and story, and they didn't know the story, being Alex and Lewis. So Jean had to show them the actual story.
Yeah.
And then when our team gets here, they know the story from their own childhood, so they know the way to go. So, I can't imagine someone coming here and not knowing the story. The world will just consume you, because you can get so lost and you'd end up losing yourself, like how we discussed we thought would happen with Jean.
Yes.
The idea that without that self-awareness of the world will still eventually consume you, whether that's by the Jabberwocker, whether that's just the world. So like they mentioned too how like it was the roots of the tree that took the herbalist.
Yes.
Once we'd learned the cat kind of convinced him to be taken.
Yeah.
Was I think the implication that John had, that the cat convinces people somehow through his magic or whatever for people to go back to the tree to be consumed for the tree for its own nutrition, for lack of a better term. And then it spits them back out into the world so the cycle can constantly continue and stuff.
Yeah, Alex and Lewis aren't colour names, so yes, we
so they're at least over. So the story's at least 80 years older than.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least 80 years before.
At least 80 years, and John's definitely not 80 years old himself. So it just goes to show how time's very different in the Ever.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like he didn't go far enough back to when they would have originally come. He just went far enough back to where it's almost like Ever After is a condensed time, which would make sense if when we go back, it's not that much. We've only been in the Ever After for what, a day or two, maybe.
Yes.
Maybe just a day at this point. Maybe Jean's home was the first rest we've gotten.
Yang was there at least maybe an hour or a couple of hours before them.
Yeah. So the idea is that if this time is condensed, then anything that travels to this world will happen much closer together.
Yep.
So if Alex and Lewis came 100 years ago, it'd only be 10 years before RWBY and RWBY's team would show up in this world, because everything's a bit more condensed.
Yeah. Atlas was yesterday. Yeah,
I can't remember exactly, but it might be that this Jean's village is the first night's time we've had here.
Yeah.
Other than the marketplace and the garden, but I think that's perpetually dark. I don't know if that has a night and day cycle in that acre necessarily. Yeah. So I don't know if that counts. We obviously didn't sleep or rest there. So as far as whatever a day is in the Ever After, again, whatever the fuck that could mean, I feel like going to Jean's village is the first 12-hour need a rest period. So we've only been here a day, then, by that logic, I think. Again, Yang might have been here for maybe more, but again, it's confusing to say how the world works necessarily.
Yeah, I think Yang may have been there a couple hours before the rest
That
of them
would
fell,
make
but
that would make sense.
yeah,
not
if we're
much longer
thinking
than that,
100
that
years equals 10 years, that definitely makes sense to
just
me.
as a rough, just as a rough
Yeah,
estimate.
yeah.
I wanted to mention too, that we kind of got a reason as to why the cat jumped in and helped RWBY from the herbalist.
Yes.
At least this is my interpretation of it. The idea that like the cat is like I said last week. The cat is a manipulator. This world is a manipulator. That's the whole point of it. So I was right on that sense. That the idea that the cat, I think, was helpful with Alex and Lewis, much like John was.
Yes.
Until again, even though Alex was a worse person that she made. Again, it makes sense that Alex would, write herself as the hero when she wrote the book, but really she was an asshole the whole time.
Yes.
That makes sense. But the herbalist made it worse, whatever she learnt there. But the idea that the cat was helping, but the cat, I think, as kind of he alludes to, wanted to go with Alex to Remnant.
Yes.
Yep. He learnt enough about Remnant from Alex to where, okay, I want to go there. I'm curious. I want to go to Remnant. So he felt betrayed when Alex traded Lewis to the tree and went herself back to Remnant.
Yeah.
So the cat felt betrayed by Alex, which is why he was using Team RWBY for the same purpose. And that's why he jumps in to save RWBY from the herbalist, because he doesn't want the same thing to happen to RWBY that happened to Alex, to where RWBY would betray the cat in the end.
Yeah, because he says, like, not her. Like, he says, no, not her, as well, when he jumps in. So it's really, yes.
Because he wants RWBY to take him to Remnant, because he's curious. That's his whole point of his character. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen, because John has ruined that for the cat. And now the cat's all grumpy and angry, because he felt he was used, because it's definitely a bit of a circle, because the cat feels he was used by RWBY because they just want to go home. So he, again, felt like he was being used, much like he was used by Alex. So he doesn't feel guilty about, well, I was just using you for information, because he's upset. He's curious, again, whether that's information on Remnant or whatever. And now he knows all about the relics and the gods and CL Soleil. So, yeah, really interesting to see, because again, we've always wondered, what's the villain of this volume? Is it Neo? Is it the Jabberwocky? Is it the cats?
Yeah.
So, and I think the only things off the top of my head that we haven't seen yet from the trailers is RWBY in the Punderstorm bridge, or a bridge with Alex/Neo/herself, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And then I think a Salem flash. We've definitely seen like a Salem flash. So I definitely think either the world or another Punderstorm will have really big implications.
RWBY's
the next one
going
we get.
to have to confront everything that she's she's going through.
Which
absolutely.
We were discussing, I think, before the stream went on, is this episode, I mean the whole season really, there's so much more to RWBY and Summer.
Yes. Yeah.
That obviously the RWBY realizes that's the whole point. She doesn't realize that's the whole point. Because it's not just, I feel like almost you believe that, I think the implication I feel like in some cases is that RWBY never came to terms with the fact that she lost her mother at a young age.
Yeah.
But I think it's so much more than just that. It's the fact that, she feels she has to be Summer's replacement. She feels that she has to fill the role that Summer did. She feels that she's a Silver-Eyed Warrior. She has to fill that role. Like, there's so much more depth to the Summer and RWBY relationship. And that all ties back also to Red Like Roses Part 2, and it's all just...
Love Red
it's
Like
so much. So, we also got more of a teaser of her outfit in this episode. We saw a reflection of RWBY in the water rise
portal things.
We saw more of like the back of her silhouette, and
you can
Summer,
sort of see perhaps the weapon, her axe, scythe weapon, whatever it is. You can see a little bit of it as well. So
yeah, she definitely has her own outfit finally. After like 3 RWBY redesigns, she finally we're gonna give her own outfit for once.
Yeah, I feel like the whole thing with Summer and everything has just been festering at the back of her mind for years. And hasn't fully... Again,
she's never dealt with it because, one, she was young, and now that she's old enough, she's been too distracted to deal with it.
Yeah. But everything keeps reminding her of Summer.
Because it's herself.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, it's very similar to Weiss. That mirror reflection. Which is why, again, why I mentioned back in Volume 4, I wish that Ruby and Weiss's was a bit separate from Blake and Yang's illusions, because I felt like there's more of a parallel between the two individuals rather than all four.
Yeah.
But the idea that, like, again, like this, every time Ruby thinks of herself, she's reminded of her mother.
Yep.
Again, whether that's, I would imagine, a bit to her own end, because obviously she wants to be, as a child, she wants to be like the mother she lost. But now realizing there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, and now she's old enough to deal with it, she has to, and that's too much for her because she never dealt with it prior.
Yep.
So it's very heavy stuff.
Yeah, Ruby's definitely the type of person who just buries all feelings and everything, just buries it all and doesn't confront it.
And again, speaking of mirrors, how perfect is it for someone like Neo to be her adversary? Someone who can literally show her, I don't know how or why, but could possibly show her Summer. That'd be insane. If we see a Summer and it's Neo, which to me wouldn't be that far-fetched to where we're going, but I'll also say we've theorized that 100 times of Neo in the past, with Neo showing up as the characters, and the only time she's done it was when Ruby was falling and she showed herself as Yang and Penny and Oscar. That's the only time she's actually really done that level of manipulation.
Yeah.
Even though we've wanted her to do that for years more than that. But and I'm just imagine if someone like that happens.
If she sees something, like, she'll need to know what Summer looks like.
Sure, and that's why I
so
think
she
that might be a bit of a stretch.
Sees something, then I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier about like Ren and Nora and Blake and Yang, kind of this idea of like, you know, you have this identity of someone else, and eventually you have to realize, okay, but who are you without that? You know, what is Ruby Rose's emblem if it's not Summer's emblem? What does Ruby Rose look like if she isn't dressed like Summer? You know, what is Ruby Rose's weapon? You know, okay, that's more on Crow, but oh right, so that's what you meant. Yes, Neo. Sorry, you're right. Neo pretended to be Nora. You're very much right, to trick Oscar and Ren. My apologies, you're correct. But again, like, we want more of that from Neo, because if you have a character who can do that kind of stuff, do that kind of stuff, because no one else can do that. So, you know, torture us, Neo, do it. So, yeah, I definitely really looking forward to that, because I feel like it makes sense for all Ruby is going through, and she has to eventually overcome this, assumingly before we leave the Ever After, that fighting someone like Neo, who is the perfect, literal manifestation of all the issues she could have with herself, with Summer, it makes so much sense to have like a major fight between those two, where Neo is fighting Ruby for Roman, not that Ruby really realizes that, and Ruby is fighting Neo as if she's fighting herself. Not that Neo really, like, they're fighting each other without realizing why they're fighting each other. Or they have reasons. So that could be really impactful and really powerful if we do that. What that leaves Neo going forward, I don't know. But you know, really interested to see that, because right now that's my idea, is that we'll get like a Ruby fighting herself, which is Neo, and Neo fighting herself for Roman, but neither character really knows why, because it's all much more internal. And again, like, Neo hasn't dealt with Roman either. She's revenged, rather than repressing it, she's revenging it, if that makes sense.
And we don't know.
I do forget a little more Neo before that happens as well.
We don't know what Neo's role really is going to be in the Ever After, and we haven't. Well, we know she cloned, or was using her semblance to clone the Jabberwockers, but we don't know yet really what her end goal was. There.
I saw an interesting. Sorry, a little side note. I saw an interesting tweet. Someone referencing that Blake explains in the first episode what the story. She explains the fairy tale. And then in episode 5, she asks, "What's a Jabberwocker?" to the cat. Now, that could be two things. That could be one, just a simple oversight. But I like the justification of the idea that she was like, "Yes, I read in the book what a Jabberwocker is. I have no actual idea what the hell a Jabberwocker
like what
is.
It actually is.
Sure, she saw one earlier, but she didn't know that was a Jabberwocker. I don't think any of the characters at the time. No, because we only knew it was Jabberwocker from the credits. We didn't learn the name in story until episode 5.
No, we didn't,
it's the idea that she knows Jabberwocker by name, but not by appearance. So that way, when she sees it in Volume 5, it's like, oh, that's what a Jabberwocker is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yes.
So, that was just something I saw, I think, earlier today, and I was just like, I thought that was a fun point to mention, since we hadn't mentioned that earlier. So, I guess, I mean, and here I thought this would be a short one. We still haven't even talked about a lot of stuff in the episode, really. But
yes, I think we've talked about most things already.
Well, we have like just little things like Jean's paranoia. Like, he's been here for 20 years. He's definitely losing it a bit. The cat references that a few times. And obviously they have complications and stuff because he feels that the cat was manipulating Alex and stuff, and betraying him and all that kind of stuff. So they're not on good terms, obviously. I just love the scene between Blake and John when John's asking them, like, that's where you're letting him take you, and Blake, like, her ears, her eyes, everything in that scene is like, he's taking us to the tree. Like, it's such a well animated and acted little interaction between those two characters, which I think the only interaction we've seen between those two actually, I think, is a hug back in Volume 6.
Yeah.
I want to say. Or something like that. But like, there's a lot of good little things, animations and stuff. So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more we could go into as well. But we are getting to the hour mark. I will say, go ahead. Oh,
I was just going to say, because Nightwalker mentioned earlier about the cat possibly of being reset or ascended maybe after the whole Alex and Lewis thing, because interestingly in the latter part of the episode when Ruby asks the cat what happened to Lewis, and the cat sort of slumps down and its colour fades, it's not as bright, and he goes, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah,
that's possible, but it still has enough of it. Still has a memory to remember most of it, though.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think I would say it's more in that situation. That was the only time where the cat was manipulated. That was where the cat was duped, where the cat was betrayed, and I feel like it's almost like emotional, like, it's like, I don't, he was, I think it's just that kind of shock of failing, and like, it's just like, I just, and again, like, I think the idea of Alex betraying Lewis to the tree is something that's like, I don't know, like, almost like that doesn't make sense, like, I can't believe she did that kind of thing. That's how I interpreted it at the time. I will say, and we discussed this earlier in the week, the actual crossroad scene, I still think is dumb. I still just don't get that scene. I still just think that's just didn't need to be there. With the actual sign.
Oh, the sign.
And John just saying, this would be easier. I get that it's John and the cat and you need to make up your mind who to follow. I still just think it was dumb. I don't know why. Every time I watch the episode, I go like, why is this here? I don't know why. I don't know why that bothers me so much. I've always thought it was a dumb scene.
Whole purpose of the Thunderstorm for them was working through the problem, which was
it's the visual representation of that's the problem that they have to face.
Yeah.
But it's just their reactions to it and just the way it was. Maybe it's just the execution that I thought was really poor.
Yeah.
I get what it's trying to say.
I just
don't think it was done very well.
Yeah, and I think it may have not been the first signpost they've come across either, because John's like, just hurry up and make a decision already.
Maybe, but again, I don't think that was clear.
Fork in the road.
Here's the thing. The reason why is because I feel like this volume has been done really well. So the fact that this bothers me, I think I interpret as personally that it's a sign of how good the volume has been. That something that subtly off just feels so out of place, considering how well the rest of the stuff's been done. So again, it's not that serious. It really isn't, but I don't know. Whenever I see that scene, I'm just like, what? But I also love the thing about Weiss saying this place is the pits, and just like, okay, well, screw you then.
Screw you.
Weiss, I never thought, and again, it makes sense that Jean can't be the comic relief this volume.
Yeah.
So because Jean and Weiss have always been kind of connected in a way, they've kind of swapped roles, that Weiss is now the comic relief this season.
Yes.
And it's a really good comic relief. Like, Weiss is really fucking funny.
I love Weiss in this volume so far. It's just so funny.
Oh, please, we've loved Weiss every volume. But
yes. But I just love how, like, she's still very logic about everything and just, everyone else seems to sort of go along with what the world's doing. Weiss is always the one to be like, this is the pits. Like, why is this happening? This is not logical, sort of thing. Yeah.
Which also makes sense too, because again, her grief is most recent. She's trying to distract herself as well. So it makes sense for her to kind of, which is what Yang would normally do, but obviously she has more serious things to deal with in the Thunderstorm.
Yes.
To deal with that. Which I also, again, always reminds me again of Ren and Yang's conversation from last volume about you don't need to treat everything like a joke and stuff.
It's just,
as well.
Yang's way of dealing with things. Yeah.
I'm sure there are a bunch of other little things, but I think it's good now we can wrap up with the finally the return of Crescent Rose.
Yes.
Jean found it when he was falling with it, so he found it. He simply kept it safe all this time.
Well, I think he found it.
Probably later.
Yeah. So he knew where it would have fell roughly. So, yeah, he must have been checking on that area and found it, which also may he may have thought that, okay, the others must be falling soon if Crescent Rose made it here. Maybe, you're not sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess because Crescent Rose maybe had already landed, and
yeah, because he went back in time.
But I'm going. Yeah, so does that mean? But why would Crescent Rose not go back in time? Why would that not leave the Ever After? I guess it already landed.
Oh,
but,
maybe. Yeah, I didn't really think of that.
But yeah.
Otherwise,
so, which either one or two things. Either Crescent Rose fell first for some reason.
Yeah.
Which means Jean still didn't get it until recently.
Because by the time Jean got to the island, the others would have been on the island as well. So I think it was just him himself who went back in time.
Which would, to me, mean Crescent Rose went as well.
No.
Unless it's just talking about organic life being reset.
Yeah, I think Crescent Rose didn't go back in time. I think he knew where it was going to fall, so he found it, and then he kept on to it till he found the others. I'm thinking. But...
Okay, but why? Why wouldn't Crescent Rose go back in time if everything else did? That's all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Like to me, I could believe that it did go back in time, and he knew where it'd land. So maybe that's why Jean wasn't at the beach when RWBY landed, because he was at that time taking Crescent Rose back to his village for safety.
Maybe.
And then because we don't know why, because Jean was waiting for them for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
We still didn't see him until the market, so there's still maybe a reason why he wasn't. And again, it could be because they fell on the other side of the island or they fell somewhere else. Fine.
Yeah.
But it still feels to me like obviously the first time we see Jean is him coming to save them with the Jabberwocker.
Yep.
Which to me is weird if he was waiting for us this whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be. Well, he wasn't literally waiting for us the entire time. Like we saw him sitting at the beach, but doesn't mean he was literally waiting for us the entire time. I get that. But maybe it's possible that he found Crescent Rose, went back to the village, and by the time he got back, he found them at the market.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. I'm not sure.
But John also said he had this for a long time, so I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
It might just be. Maybe we're overthinking it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But just that. Sorry, no. Walker. I'll just read some of your comments here now.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, thoughts possibly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, after Weiss landed on John, that's pretty funny.
Yes. Yeah. No. But I think it's funny, like how with RWBY's always been like Crescent Rose is her baby, to the point now that she's questioning it now. Is this really who she wants to be?
Yeah, which again ties back to the whole thing of again, like, let go of your burdens, and if you want a new weapon, you can take one.
Yes.
Here and now. I don't think. To me,
I don't think she's rejecting the Huntress. I think she's rejecting the person who she was.
I think she has a real identity crisis right now, and she wants to kind of shed everything and become something new. I think, how I think it'll go is I think she will shed everything.
Yeah.
Again, with Volume 10, we probably were meant to get new outfits if we get, if Volume 10 gets green, we'll get new outfits. I think RWBY's will be a bit more drastic than we've seen from the other characters. But I think she got a new emblem, and I think she could change all that stuff. Or she could in the end accept that she is Summer Rose and she is RWBY Rose, and she could accept that that's who she is.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that she does shed Summer and become her own character.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking emo RWBY. I was thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it. But what I think will, hey, she needs to lose an eye. What, we still needs to lose her eye at some point. Doesn't actually need to lose her eye, but I think that she will shed everything. But I think she will keep Crescent Rose. That will be the one thing she doesn't change. One, because I've always liked the idea of like Crescent Rose being the Monty thing. And I feel like we should change that, even though I'm sure Monty maybe planned to change it, because again, he was involved with the Ever After stuff before his passing, sadly. But I think the whole thing is that she'll shed everything, but because Crescent Rose is more of a connection to Crow, rather than Summer.
Yeah.
I feel like that will be the one why she'll keep Crescent Rose as it is, because
Possibly, yeah.
that's more of a tie to that's not just a tie to Summer, that's a tie to Crow as well. Granted, you could argue too that a lot of her shedding could also relate to Crow and not just Summer, because obviously she looks up and reflects both of them. More Summer more so, but obviously, I feel like she reflects Summer unintentionally, where she reflects Crow intentionally, because obviously she could actually look at Crow and see Crow and reflect him.
Yeah.
Actually, I've seen a lot of that too.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of speculation too that adding the which again, unlike the floating array, these swords are literally Penny's soul. It's her maiden power. It's literally Penny. It's the idea of replacing the blade with the green energy, with the green metal glass soul instead.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. I don't disagree. I love that. Again, I always thought that it'd be cool if she had kept one floating array after Volume 3.
Yeah.
And she used the sword for that one scene with the Nevermore. I get why she didn't, because obviously she can't use swords. That's not her style. But I do like that idea, especially since we have a blacksmith that is possibly Summer or whatever. We have a blacksmith. If we're going to change someone's weapon, we have a pretty good excuse to do that.
Yeah.
So I like the idea for sure. I just don't know how well it'll look with the green and red. But again, like what if RWBY's new outfit is more, I don't know, I could say more reflection of Penny's, but would that just be repeating the same cycle rather than being herself? She would just again reflect someone else she's lost rather than herself. So yeah, I'm not sure. I like the idea. But I don't think I've liked how it's looked from a few fan edits.
Yeah.
But I definitely like the concept for sure. But yeah, like I said, I think she'll shed everything, but I think Crescent Rose will be the one thing she probably doesn't, because I think it has a bit more ties to people than just Summer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. And that's the thing too, because RWBY has had, photos of Summer and stuff. We've seen photos of Summer and all that kind of stuff. She's had that kind of reference to what she looks like, but we've never seen her weapon. So that's probably why Crescent Rose is a bit more like Crow's, because maybe she hasn't seen. Yeah. I mean, she saw it. I mean, I don't know. She saw Summer's reflection on the axe. It doesn't mean she knew the axe was her mum's. It's just when she saw the reflection, it was kind of like an instinctual thing where she realized what it was at the time. So she might not have known at the time that axe was Summer's, but she maybe thinks that now. But again, maybe it isn't. It's the Ever After. Who knows what the hell it's doing?
No. Well, thoughts for the next episode.
Thoughts for next episode.
Hopefully, well, John said he had a plan.
I think it's a big one. I think it's a big one. I think we could get more Neo, because we haven't got Neo. Yes. We've got it in episode 3, we've got it in episode 5, so we'll get it in episode 7. Yep. Just to follow that pattern, that trend.
And we may be getting a new song as well. Which could be happening too.
We didn't mention Worthy. The new song that played this episode, which had incredible and really obvious Lion King vibes.
Yes.
Which I've seen a lot of people reference, and I thought that too, with the first few notes between I forgot what the song's called, but when Nala and Simba at the first Lion King kind of come together and they have that kind of love song. It's very, very similar to this. Which is a very, very beautiful song.
Because Casey did mention something about, I thought it was
she mentioned that this is technically Bumblebee Part 2.
Right.
Like how This Time is from Shadows Part 2.
Yeah.
Like there's a few songs that are kind of spiritually successors and stuff. So this is like Bumblebee Part 2, she said that. And she did tweet out the lyrics and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was beautiful song, beautiful episode. And I think next episode, we'll get...
I think we're going to get a lot of exposition. Sean explaining what his plan is to get them out back to Remnant, I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's the thing too, because that's... But and I'm curious if that's something different than the tree, because Jean didn't want to go to the tree, so I would assume that means he may know enough way out, or he thinks the tree isn't the way out. Like, assuming that, like, the cat mentions a door to Remnant, but Jean led Alex to the tree because that's what he thought the answer was. But it seems like the door isn't at the tree. Alex escaped because she literally sacrificed Lewis to bargain with the tree, so the tree sent her back to Remnant. That's my interpretation. But there might be some other gateway somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe. Like this area has, the tree, the plant with the the clock fruit. So it's very possible there's other things in the ever after that could maybe be a doorway back to Remnant, perhaps.
The Kokori village, that's pretty funny. But I like the idea that maybe some of the other survivors from the fall are here.
Yes.
But at the same time, I just don't think we're gonna get that. I think that's just gonna be a who cares as far as the writers are concerned. I don't think we're gonna get a reference. I feel like we would have by now if we're going to.
Yeah.
But we could. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's just not a thing. We just don't get a reference to the people who fell. I guess the implication being they died when Cinder blew them up, like they didn't survive the fall.
Yeah.
Which again, they don't have auras and stuff, and that could be a reason why they survived, like landing in the water and crawling to the beach because they're auras and they're huntsmen and stuff. So that could also be a possibility as well.
Yeah, the writer said they all died. Yeah, it's very likely they died when they got knocked off.
Okay. I must have said that's the case, but
I think I remember seeing something about that. I think.
Like I can believe that Cinder blowing up a platform and everyone falling to their deaths.
Yeah.
Like I can believe that. That doesn't seem that far fetched, to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think Jean's stuff significant. I think Neo stuff significant. I would like, we've discussed here, like I would like a little more John and Weiss, because I feel like, like between obviously the stuff from Volume 3, then also the stuff from Volume 5, I feel like those characters have never really discussed their relation, which I would really like to, really interested to hear how they feel about each other and stuff nowadays and stuff, other than just like little jokes here and there. I would like to see them kind of have a proper discussion. But again, at the same time, Jean, maybe this might be the right. I don't know. If we go back to Remnant, he'll still have all those memories, so it might never be the right time to have this conversation. Because you got to imagine, like, what Jean's been here for 20 years. He's got to have held on to something, whether that's just him RWBY returning, whether that's something to do with Weiss, whether that's. Like, I'll probably say not pure, because again, we've established that he's probably kind of come to terms with that.
Neo recruited all the survivors. Yeah, well. Yeah.
Well, we did get that silhouette of Neo.
Yeah.
So there's something to do with Neo having backup. That could have been a reference to the Jabberwockers.
It could be.
Like kind of like being like a very vague reference to her backup.
I think we'll find out soon what Neo's purpose is in all of this.
I think so. So we've got 4 episodes left: 7, 8, 9, 10.
I think because now we're no longer following Alex's footsteps. We're going now in a different direction with John. So I think it's going to be.
But I think it's roughly what we predicted, except we predicted we get to the tree before that happened. But it seems like we're going the same idea. It's just that Jean and us learning about the truth that now we're going on the same direction, just without the actual going to the tree.
Yeah. We've been trying to find out what John's plan is, and how they're going to get back to Remnant. But I definitely think we'll see the armor at some point before they get back there. I think RWBY's going to have another confrontation with the armorer. Whether or not we see what we saw in the intro, I also kind of feel like what we saw in the intro there with RWBY on the bridge with Neo, I think was very symbolic such.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, it's well, I mean, anything Alex is involved with symbolic. I think Alex isn't here.
Yeah,
it's just a shadow that we're following.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense. Again, and again, maybe that ties into the fact that she saw Alex in the dagger.
Yep.
Which again is another tie-in to why RWBY thinks she's not her own person, because she was she's following in Summer's footsteps. Now she's following in Alex's footsteps.
Yeah.
That could just be a reference to that.
Yeah, for a short volume, we're covering it a lot well paced. It has been really, really good pace so far, absolutely. And the episodes just feel a lot longer than they are, and they've managed to put a lot.
I mean, this one was a 20-minute one.
This was 20
one was a bit
minutes.
longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, very excited to see where we're going.
Yes.
Next, and unfortunately, you all, I believe, will have to wait 2 weeks before you hear our discussions on that.
Well, I was thinking we could do Friday morning next week.
Oh, right. Never mind. Never mind.
So Corner of Remnant will be on Friday morning, because I'm going to be going.
Yeah, so it'd just be a day earlier to make it simpler.
So it'll be a day earlier.
Same time, just a day earlier.
Well, not exactly the same time.
Well,
because daylight savings. So daylight savings is ending for us tomorrow. So, so we're going back, so it'll be an hour earlier for you guys, I think, or was it I always get it marked out for.
I think it's earlier. I think it's earlier.
Yeah.
Which also means that not this week, but next week for us, the episode will come out at 12:30.
Yes.
So a much more reasonable time for us to watch it at night.
Well, I won't be.
I will say,
Yeah.
well, some of us don't have lives. But
Well, reacting to it at midnight is probably not the best idea for me. I'll be tired.
But I will say this was also the first episode that I stayed up to 1:30 to watch.
Yes.
So a different definitely reaction and vibe to this episode. I'm glad I did because obviously it's so significant.
Yeah, Kane did the same thing because they messaged me at 3 a.m. But yeah, so it'll be Friday for Corner of Remnant. I don't know yet. I don't think they've said anything on whether or not we're going to be getting an episode on the Easter weekend. Because we've never actually had RWBY.
I think we will
Easter.
because I think they want the volume to wrap up right before the movie gets released.
Yeah.
Which I think lines up well if they don't take a break, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it's April 25th the movie comes out, and I think this episode, like the last episode, will come out around the 20th or something to that degree.
Yeah, because we're at 6
That would make sense. And again, no offense, they've worked 2 years on it. I don't think we've waited 2 years. I don't think there needs to be a break. Not to be selfish for a second, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's just I will be away, so I'll have to stay off social media. Well, I don't have a very good internet connection where I'm going anyway, so I'll be late recording my reaction to that, but that's fine. That'll be episode 8. Yeah.
But make sure to check Larissa's reaction that comes out tomorrow for this episode. I think a lot of people have been showing their reactions to the Bumblebee stuff regardless.
Yes.
People can't keep their stuff under control. But mostly that's been like through Twitter videos and stuff, not like YouTube uploads, so it's not as significant. But especially with like the non-free release, I don't think even in general, I don't think Crunchyroll are that annoyed with people doing their reactions earlier. I've seen a lot of people do reactions. Like obviously for old school people, we'll wait a week.
We'll wait a week.
Policy. I know some people will just do their reactions regardless.
Yeah,
so.
I have been considering I might try and edit a short to put up of my reaction to Bumblebee, but I have to figure out how to do that. Yeah, because I started putting up a few shorts of my my gaming stuff, my Pokemon Shiny reactions and stuff, but they're clips that I could put into a program that slices it up for me. Whereas I have to see if I can what I can do.
Yeah, you probably have to manually edit your own like face cam footage and then the episode and stuff. So a bit more of a manual edit for that stuff.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So I might have a play with that. After this actually. I don't have puppy class to run off to, so good. But yes.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much it. We've discussed most of it. So yeah, really looking forward to next week. Obviously, Corner of Remnant will be next Friday rather than the Saturday or the day early, whatever equivalent it is for you. Because I think for most people it's already Friday because time zones and stuff.
Zones. It's Saturday morning for us right now. As we're recording this.
So whatever that is to you now, at hour earlier, day before.
Yes.
For next week, we're discussing episode 7. Again, reactions tomorrow for Larissa. I have art planned for
There's
2
the
planned
Blake
for the start,
art,
and I think in the Blake art that's one that's there. That was from the trailer, which again because it's from the episode, I drew that back when the trailer came out. But I held on to it until the episode came out, so that would I posted day of.
Yay!
Cheatingly, I did it. And so I have stuff planned for Easter, and also I think I'll post something on the Thursday as well.
Yeah.
So look forward to all that, and
and all the reactions as well. I think everyone's going to be excited about that.
Yes, and thank you very much for like Nightwalker and anyone else who's watching live. Thank you for everyone watching the VOD on Twitch.
Yeah,
anyone the VOD on YouTube. Again, feel free to comment on the YouTube stuff.
Definitely comment on the YouTube videos, your thoughts and any questions that you may have. Yeah, definitely.
No spoilers though for the next episode.
Yeah, of course.
But so
I think we're good. I think we're good to wrap it up there.
Yeah, so make sure that and everyone to praise Waifu and the Great One.
Oops, the Great One. Just there's a mess.
I did I believe last Saturday I did order my pop-up parade penny.
Oh yay!
That is now pre-order.
I would love to get that.
Finally, we'll have a penny that isn't just a plush.
Yay!
We'll finally have a figure, which I'm very excited for.
Yes.
Also, I would also kind of want to just really recommend, even though if you're Australia, it costs too much money. But if you want any other kind of more RWBY art that Erin Wynn, the artist for RWBY, has her own store envy, and she is selling RWBY prints and penny RWBY print, which I think most of the RWBY stuff sold out, but she's selling a penny poster and a penny print.
Oh yes.
So feel free to go check out Erin Wynn on Twitter.
Yes.
And go join her store and buy her stuff. I was going to. It's just unfortunately with exchange rates and shipping, a $10 sticker ended up costing me $50. So
yeah.
unfortunately,
Exchange rates
I still might get it, but I couldn't get it last week. Maybe with this week's paycheck, maybe I will. I want to do it because I want to have some of her art in my room. I love that.
I would love
exchange rates are so right now.
Yeah.
Goddamn COVID, financial crisis.
Yes.
Plop.
I know.
Yes. Oh, and also make sure to check out Note of Fashion, and make sure to check out Larissa store and buy her mostly LGBTQI plus merchandise.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have opened my store if
Please.
you want to have a look at that. Absolutely. Links will be in the description for those on YouTube as well. And I'm adding more to it, and I will be doing some non-price stuff, but at the moment there is a lot of price stuff on there if you're interested.
Which also makes sense, I think, because I believe, for anyone who's unaware, I believe it is Trans Visibility Day today.
It is Trans Visibility today as we're recording. Yes, it is, yes.
Shout out to all those people.
Amazing trans
I would say
people that we have.
my biggest inspiration in that regard is Caden, but Caden doesn't have the best things to say. But yes, I was referring to Caden from Rooster Teeth.
Oh,
yes, Caden.
Von Caden. Yes, Caden who goes from Rooster Teeth as well. Good lord.
My apologies.
Almost the same name, same sounding name anyway.
spelled differently.
Yes.
I was going to say, that might be the best, because I know Caden from Rooster Teeth doesn't have the best opinion on RWBY and Rooster Teeth these days, unfortunately. There's some bit of bad blood between them, unfortunately, these days. But shout out to Cadens around the world.
The two
for sure
Cadens.
Oh, God, I'm such an idiot.
And my other trans friends as well.
Yes,
I have a lot of trans followers as well.
Yeah, we love you here. You know,
we do.
You be you, love yourself, we'll love you back. It's
Absolutely.
all good around here, 100%. Much love.
Much love.
So until next time, next Friday,
yes,
we'll see you then. Thank you everyone for watching Corner of Remnant.
Thank you everyone for hanging out, and we'll catch you later. Okay, bye.
Bye.